a 49er analyst for NBC Sports Bay Area, host of the Quality Hang Pod. Rod Brooks with us. Rod, say hello to Kayla Anderson with us today, if you would.
Hello, Kayla. Nice to meet you.
You too, Rod. Pleasure to talk to you today.
She knows her football, Rod. She definitely knows her football. So, speaking of, who's done a better job, Robert Saleh or Kyle Shanahan? What do you think, Rod?
Ooh, that's a really, really, really good question. And you can tell how good of a question it is and how difficult it is for me to answer it because I have yet to address the question you just asked me.
He's thinking about it.
He's going into the four corners, yeah.
Boy, I am, right? You picked that up, didn't you? I'm going to say Kyle Shanahan because he has to coach the entire team. Now, obviously, he's the offensive guy. He's not the defensive guy. But since it's his whole shebang-a-bang, he tried to say in English, I'm going to say Kyle Shanahan. But clearly, the Niners would not be in a position that they are right now if they didn't have both of those guys. And this is actually something I'm going to talk about on the pregame show. Bright and early Sunday morning, 9 o'clock on NBC Sports Bay Area, that what Kyle Shanahan has done has been remarkable because he didn't try to get stubborn and stay with the run game when you lose Brock Purdy and with him being a running coach. He's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play to the strengths, even though he didn't necessarily have the strengths offensively to go with that pass game because you didn't have Purdy. Obviously, Mac Jones came in, bam, round peg in that round hole. But you lose Pearsall for a little bit. You lost George Kittle at the very beginning of the season. You don't have Brandon Ayuk, and there is some news about him that maybe we'll get to later. For Kyle Shanahan to sort of see the situation and pivot, even though he has, trusted quarterbacks like Nick Mullins in years past. I think that. I don't know if that's necessarily growth, but I think that is a check on the ledger for Kyle Shanahan. With Robert Saleh, this is not a defense full of guys that he knows. Yes, Warner and Bosa, those are cats he knows, but those cats are not there. And specifically last week, for Robert Saleh to trust these young guys, but also trust who he is as a defensive coordinator. He called a whale of a game. I'm always going to be on team player. Those guys going out, no matter the sport, those are the guys should get the majority of the credit. But Robert Saleh, the way he called that defense, said, I'm going to blitz. I'm going to be aggressive because I have the trust in the young guys on the back end that they can hold up in man coverage, knowing that Michael Penix is much better against zone coverage than he is against man coverage. He had trust in that defense. He had trust in those young guys, and they rewarded his trust. But it takes a coach to start that process. And how many times have we seen it, no matter the sport, where a coach will say, I'm not going to go outside my comfort zone, or I'm not going to allow these guys to make mistakes because it might be a reflection that is negative on me. Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh have not done that, and that is a commendable action by both of them.
Rod, going to the quarterback position, and we've seen so much of the Mac Jones show early on this season just with the Brock Purdy turf toe, and maybe you can enlighten us on what we should expect this Sunday. But when that move does happen, is there in any way, some of the players that may be like, hey, we've enjoyed Mac Jones here, he's done a good job, and is it hard at some point to go back to Brock Purdy?
Well, I'll start with the latter question. There's going to be no quarterback controversy. There's going to be no dissension in the locker room. There's not going to be guys under their breath going, we should do this. Everybody understands the situation. Mac Jones, who is talented, okay, he's got arm talent, as we like to talk about these days. Mac Jones is coming here, and he has done a whale of a job, and he has exceeded people's expectations outside of the Niner facility, and he's probably exceeded people's expectations within that facility, actually inside of the Niners locker room. All that being said, everybody knows that it's Brock Purdy's team. And number one, because he's gotten them to 2 NFC championship, or helped get them, right? To get them to 2 NFC championship games, and he was only a few minutes away from winning a Super Bowl. They also understand from a financial situation, that these things do play a part. So there is no ambiguity in terms of when Brock Purdy is ready, and he's not going to play this weekend. They're still going to give it one more week, maybe even two, being very cautious with that turf toe. So Mac Jones will get the start. Will it be the last one? We'll see. But when Brock Purdy is ready, everybody knows that when Brock Purdy is ready to go, that's his job, full stop. In terms of what you're going to see from Mac Jones, you're going to continue to see what you've seen all season long. He's got to get the ball out quick because he's seeing another defense in the Houston Texans. And this is going to be the best defense that Mac Jones has seen since he has taken over the reins for the Niners. Because remember, he didn't play against Seattle. This Texans defense, while you can run on them a little bit, they're the best in the league in terms of points allowed, a shade over 14. They've got a front seven that gets after the quarterback, particularly Will Anderson and the rest of that front. So what is Mac Jones going to have to do? Same thing he's had to do in all the starts that he's made for the Niners. Get that ball out quick, because the longer he holds on to it, the better that Texans defense is going to look in terms of trying to get at him and get after him.
Rod Brooks, nice enough to join us as he does on Fridays, and Rod, I have many more football questions, and we'll get to some of those. But I got to ask you, now that you've met Kayla, we're next to the Goal One Center. We're celebrating Kings opening night here, and we were talking earlier about how some cities don't have a basketball team. Kayla's from Seattle, and Jay dropped that on her. He said, well, you're from Seattle. Now, if you're throwing the flag on that, is that like 15 yards? Is he ejected? What's the call?
I mean, that's dirty pool, Jay. I thought, man.
My bad, Rob. My bad, man. It was indirectly, man. My bad.
And I'm going to tell you something. Here's where I'm sensitive. And Jay, you should understand this. So, I'm Houston, Texas, born and raised.
That's right.
I've been in the Bay for 28 years. Yeah, 28 years. But I'm Houston, Texas, born and raised.
Third ward, right?
Means,
we had that conversation. Third ward. Yep.
Sunnyside. Oh yeah. Sunnyside. Third
Sunnyside.
Ward, Southside, all that. Yeah, South Acres. You know what it is. So
yes,
I grew up going by the Astrodome every day to go to school. So I grew up a Houston Oilers fan, and I say this with all seriousness and sincerity. I am always going to be understanding of fans and fan bases that had their teams taken away from them by greedy, shameless owners. And I put Howard Schultz, you know who I'm talking about, Kayla. I put him in the same group that I put Bud Adams in. I put him in the same group that I put the owner of the A's in. Those guys did those people dirty. And Seattle got done dirty by Howard Schultz, and I forget the name of the person that eventually took over the Oklahoma City Thunder, or who Howard Schultz sold to, and then moved. Oh, it was Howard Schultz, I think. Yeah, but I forget the timeline.
Clay Bennett, wasn't it? Clay Bennett.
Clay Bennett.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's exactly who I'm thinking of. So these two rich guys conspired to take something away from Seattle that was extremely, extremely important to them. And I hate when it's done. And I'm always sensitive to fans who have to deal with that. And one of the happiest days of my life is when the Tennessee Titans, who used to be the Houston Oilers, came up 1 yard short, short in the Super Bowl against the Rams. Because if the Titans would have won the Super Bowl only a few years after leaving Houston, I might have slammed my head against a brick wall. So, Kayla, I am very, very sorry that the Oklahoma City Thunder won a championship last year, because I know that had to hurt.
It's funny, Rod, because you saying that, I like and I appreciate your side of that, because I just came from covering the Titans for 8 years and hearing all their gripes and groans, and when they wore the baby blues, and everyone would get mad in Houston, and you hear their side.
Yeah.
But to hear the other side is great. So.
Yeah.
Ain't no other side. Bud Adams took his team because Houston, who had already renovated the Astrodome, taken out the scoreboard because they wouldn't give him another stadium, because the Oilers had just blown a 32-point lead against the Bills in that wild card game. And the year before, they had lost the game to the Broncos. Don't get me started on all that. As far as I'm concerned, there ain't no other side. Bud Adams took his team to Tennessee, fine and dandy. I hope they don't win another thing ever.
I don't think they will right now. So
No, I don't think they're a well-run organization. And gee, isn't that a shame?
they know because the Niners, they are.
Yeah, they definitely are. Yeah.
Moving on.
Rod, let me ask you. You mentioned that. Yeah, you mentioned Houston and how tough they are defensively. How did the 49ers get the running game going, and is that repeatable this week against the Texans?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, you point to George Kittle and go, bam, that's the guy. And he was extremely important because he set the tone. If you remember the beginning of the game, the Niners made a concerted effort to run at the tackles and outside the tackles. And they did that because George Kittle is the absolute best at his position at digging out nosy linebackers and safeties that come up to stop the run. There were a couple of plays where Falcons linebackers came up. George Kittle got him. Christian McCaffrey followed behind him. The Niners got some positive yardage out of it. So the Falcons said, all right, the Niners, outside zone run team, they're going to do that all season or all game long. This is where Robert Saleh deserves some credit because they knew that if the Falcons decided to sell out to stop the outside zone runs, that they could go back in and they could attack the inside of that Falcons defense. I said Robert Saleh, I meant Kyle Shanahan. That they could go back and attack the inside of that Falcons defense that is a little light in the cakes, comparatively speaking, to other teams in the NFL. So when the Falcons thought that they had to sell out to stop that outside run, the Niners just went right up the guts on the Falcons to that gap zone run scheme over and over and over and over again with great success. Now, that's going to be a completely different story against the Texans, who, again, are not as good against the run as they are against the pass. So you're not going to be able to fool them. You're not going to be able to outmuscle them. It's going to be flat-out execution. But when you have George Kittle in there to help you on those outside runs, and with the Niners getting that confidence of what they had last week, they should be able to run the ball to supplement what they want to do offensively in terms of passing the ball. But listen, as bad as the Texans looked this past Monday, as awful as that offense is, particularly their offensive line, this is going to be a very tough, tight, close to the vest game because of these two defenses. And I think it's going to come down to a late game field goal, quite frankly.
Ooh, drama.
Yeah.
Pinheiro,
Yeah.
right? Could
Yeah.
be the deciding factor. And and speaking of him, in all seriousness, to make that move this year early on, and I know, it was something that Shanahan maybe didn't want to do but had to do at some point, right? How much has that paid off? And I'm sure that that's galvanizing, too, to just know you have a guy in there that you've been able to count on.
100%. You can see the way that Kyle Shanahan is coaching, the way that he's moving, that the confidence that he has not had over these last few years, knowing that he has a kicker that is going to be money no matter where you kick it from, especially from long distances. Pinheiro, 17-17. He has not missed a field goal yet. To have that in your hip pocket emboldens you as a coach. And I want to go all the way back to the Seattle game. Kate Niners won that game on an ill-advised, albeit eventually game-winning touchdown pass from Brock Purdy to Jake Tonjes. Jake Tonjes had to play defense before he caught the ball. That's how ill-advised of a pass it was for Brock Purdy. But I bring that up because Brock Purdy said in that game, or after the game, that they did not want to kick a field goal. Okay. When your quarterback, and Kyle Shanahan coached differently in that game too because of Jake Moody's misses. By the way, shout out to Jake Moody going to Chicago, kicking those field goals, that game winner a few weeks ago. Fantastic for him. But his time with the Niners was not good. And you saw Kyle Shanahan coaching, moving differently because he did not want to send his field goal kicker out there. So you go all the way from Seattle to where we are right now. Kyle Shanahan is calling plays, and if things don't work out, he feels good that Pinheiro is going to come out there and hit it from 45, 50, 52, 55 yards. That's a weapon. That is an absolute weapon. You can't rely on it. You can't live on it, but it's nice to have because, as we've seen, when you don't have it or you have the opposite, it is a drain on how your coach and your quarterback and your offense operates in the long term and big picture.
Well, Rod, we appreciate your time as always. We also appreciate the fact that here we are getting ready for the Kings opener. They dropped their first game, and you being in the Bay Area, I know you on X, you mentioned some things about number 30 last night. Thanks for not rubbing that in our faces today. We appreciate that as well.
Listen, I understand audiences. I'm not going to bring that kind of stuff up. So like the bean, man. No, but on the real, man. It's so much fun because we don't get it very often. It's so much fun when the Warriors and the Kings are good at the same time. So I'm rooting for the Kings just like I'm rooting for the Warriors, just like I'm rooting for my Rockets, because to me, that means we're getting good basketball, and that's all I care about. That's all I want. So like that beam, baby.
I love it.
Thanks, Rod.
Light it
We'll
up.
see you on the TV. Yeah, we'll see you on TV this weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, Rod.
All right, thank you, guys. Take care.
Yeah, he really was not a fan of your tactics.